Welcome to this mini-sode of What the Fuck Biology. I got this message from one of our WTF Biology listeners.
Hi, this is Mark. I was wondering about the COVID vaccine. What the fuck is mRNA anyway? Thanks.
That is an excellent question, Mark. Thank you for asking it. Well, and I am going to use this mini-sode to try to explain it to you. The COVID vaccine I received is an mRNA vaccine. So, WTF is mRNA. But first, what is RNA? Like its more famous brother, DNA. RNA is a nucleic acid. DNA and RNA have a lot of similarities. They have the same basic structure of a sugar-phosphate backbone with nitrous bases sticking out. DNA typically forms a double helix. It looks like a ladder that has been twisted. RNA, though, is usually found in a single strand folded over on itself like a breast cancer awareness ribbon that's been squished a little. RNA has the sugar ribose. That's where the R comes from. Na part stands for nucleic acid, whereas DNA's sugar is deoxyribose, which is the D part. On deoxyribose, there's one less oxygen atom than in ribose, deoxy. And that extra oxygen atom of ribose compared to deoxyribose is important to how stable the molecule is, because oxygen is good at hooking onto stuff. RNA has a lot of jobs in the cell, and we give it a little letter in the front of our RNA just to keep track of what tasks that particular molecule is doing. For example, tRNA is transfer RNA. mRNA is messenger RNA. So now we got to talk about the central dogma of biology. If you remember from high school biology class, the central dogma is all about how proteins are made. There's that classic diagram of DNA, arrow pointing to RNA, arrow pointing to protein. That's the central dogma. So DNA is just chilling in the nucleus, and then a signal comes in and says, hey, we need X number of protein Y. So DNA is like, on it. The portion of the genome that codes for that particular protein unwinds so that an RNA version of that gene can be made. And that is the mRNA, the messenger. And that process is called transcription. It's like taking a cheaper copy of a highly valuable book out of the library archives. For the 150th anniversary of John Wesley Powell's famous trip through Grand Canyon in 1869, I wanted to read the original handwritten journals of the men on the expedition. So I went to the university library where these things are archived. There's no way that any respectable librarian would let me take out that original handwritten copies of something that is that rare and important. And it's the same with DNA. That shit stays in the nucleus so it doesn't get damaged. I ended up buying a digitized copy of the journals for a few bucks off the internet. And that's like mRNA. If something bad happens to that copy, well, recycle it and just get another copy. The newly formed mRNA molecule leaves the nucleus and enters the cytoplasm. Cytoplasm is just a fancy word for cell juice. So the mRNA goes to an organelle called a ribosome. This is the protein manufacturing plant of the cell. There's two parts to a ribosome, the big part and the little part. And the fancy science terms are the large subunit and the small subunit. Simple. Now we need to get from the nucleic acid language to protein language, and that process is called translation. And it goes like this. mRNA slips between the two parts of the ribosome that reads the strands of the mRNA. The ribosome signals to tRNA, the transfer RNA, to collect the building blocks of the proteins that are called amino acids. tRNA molecules are only 3 bases long, or 3 of the letters. For example, AGU or CCA. That 3-letter code determines which amino acids get assembled into the final protein. And you can find videos of proteins being synthesized. It looks like these ribosomes are pooping out this long strand that starts to get tangled up when it's long enough, and that's exactly what's happening. That big poop is the protein that's being formed. After the mRNA has been read and the protein is synthesized, it goes back into the cell juice to be broken down and recycled. And that's where being a little bit unstable is helpful. It's easier to break it down. But that makes it hard for scientists to work with. I had an instructor say that RNA is a drama queen and will denature if you say anything mean to it. So there's mRNA, a very important step in the maintenance of a body. and a useful tool for creating a vaccine. Immune systems can recognize that this particular sequence of mRNA is not mine. Invader alert! Invader alert! And will start making defenses against that invader. The mRNA message in the COVID vaccine codes for one of the proteins that allows the virus to attach to human cells. That's called a spike protein. And so that's how your body knows to defend against the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So, I hope you get a shot, because it helps the whole world end this pandemic, because I know we're all sick of it. Thanks again, Mark, for the great question. And if you have a question that you would like me to address, send me an email at wtfbiology@gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at WTF_biology. Send me a message there, and I will give you the phone number in which you can call me, and you can be on the show. Be sure to check back in next week when we talk about fungal endophytes, which are my babies. I love endophytes. This is what I study for my PhD. And I talked to Dr. Ron Deckert, who writes all the music for the show. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel at WTF Biology on YouTube. I will show you how we grow fungal endophytes out of healthy plant tissue. It's pretty cool.
Vaccinate the world, everyone gets shots.
Yes, let's just be done with this. It's not going to have any mind control or whatever.
You mean Bill Gates isn't watching where I'm going now that I've gotten the vaccine?
I don't think that Bill Gates cares about you.
I don't think he does either.